Number 10. The Davy Crockett. The Davy Crockett was a tactical nuclear weapon that was designed to be used on the battlefield. This bizarre launching device is the smallest nuclear weapon system ever built. The U.S. Department of Defense hoped that the Davy Crockett could be used by soldiers to eliminate enemy defenses with a tiny nuclear blast. In 1956, around 2,000 models of this bizarre weapons platform were produced, and the Davy Crockett even stayed in service until 1971. This video shows the Davy Crockett in action.
The round was set for a low height of burst. It detonated perfectly, releasing its lethal radiation.
Number 9. The Orion Pulse Drive. The Orion Pulse Drive was a propulsion system that used a series of nuclear detonations to propel a spaceship to speeds that would make interplanetary travel possible. Tests were conducted, and it was found that the Orion Pulse Drive was entirely feasible and a very cost-effective way to explore space. The designers of the ship even worked with the Coca-Cola Company to design a massive vending machine that could hold nuclear warheads. NASA even entertained the Orion Pulse Drive as an option for powering a manned mission to Mars until the Nuclear Test Ban Treaty put an end to the Orion Pulse Drive. An Orion Pulse Drive could reach the nearest star in just 100 years. The estimated cost of building such a ship is about $367 billion. And while that may sound high, it's important to remember that the Iraq War cost the United States over $1.7 trillion. Number 8. To create a lake. In 1965, the Soviet Union decided to use nuclear weapons to solve their agricultural problems. Their first and only attempt took place at Lake Shigan in modern-day Kazakhstan. But I'll let this Soviet narrator explain.
The Soviet Union has plenty of arid regions. In the summer months, rains are scarce here, which is often the reason for poor crop yields. But in the winter, a thick blanket of snow covers the fields. To collect and preserve floodwater, craters can be used, excavated by underground nuclear explosions. This is a story of one such pilot project located on a river in an arid region. In this project, an underground cratering explosion was used to dig a reservoir to contain 6 million cubic meters of floodwater. Few seconds before the explosion, the blast excavated more than 10 million cubic meters of geological material. Few days later, there were already some 6 million cubic meters of water in the crater. The project, this country's first, proved that underground nuclear explosions can be used to excavate water reservoirs in isolated areas in short time.
Doesn't that sound nice? It's too bad the lake is still irradiated. Number 7. To put out a fire. This gas well fire is another brilliant example of the Soviet Union using nuclear weapons to solve their problems. But I'll let the creepy Soviet narrator explain.
This gas well fire roared out of control at one of the natural gas deposits in this country. The giant torch consumed nearly 10 million cubic meters of valuable fuel a day. It was decided to choke the well by a contained underground nuclear explosion. A nuclear explosion was to be set off in plastic geological material below gas-impermeable strata. Now the flame and the nuclear charge are left alone, face to face. The camera feels the impact of the detonation. And the gas flame begins to subside. Let us now take a look at what has actually happened deep down below. The shock wave of the explosion compressed the surrounding geological material and pushed it aside, blocking the flow of gas. The well was plugged by crushed rock. It took only 23 seconds to do the job. A contained underground nuclear explosion has helped to save large quantities of valuable gas for our national economy.
Number 6. Atomic landmines. Long before the public became fearful of suitcase nukes, the US designed and built small nuclear bombs to hide behind enemy lines. Weighing 400 pounds, the atomic landmine wasn't easily portable, but proved to be an effective nuclear landmine. It was later decided that leaving mines with nuclear warheads in the soil probably wasn't the best idea, and the project was abandoned. Number 5. Starfish Prime. In 1962, researchers in the Department of Defense wanted to conduct a test on nuclear detonations beyond the Earth's atmosphere. No nation had detonated nuclear warheads in space before, and no one knew exactly what was going to happen. The detonations caused by Operation Starfish Prime let out an EMP burst far larger than anyone had anticipated. The pulse knocked out hundreds of streetlights and disabled phone lines in Hawaii, destroyed 6 satellites, and even created an artificial aurora. Because of these side effects, nuclear weapons were never again tested in space. Number 4. To study mushroom clouds. When the British were testing their first hydrogen bombs, they wanted to study the radioactive particles inside of a nuclear mushroom cloud. They coated a plane in wax to capture radioactive particles. The British authorities then ordered test pilots to fly these planes through a mushroom cloud immediately after a detonation. When one test pilot's plane passed through a mushroom cloud, he noticed radioactive rain falling on the wings of his jet. Unfortunately, the test pilot later developed cancer 7 times, and his children also have genetic diseases. But to this day, the British government claims there's no way to know for sure if the radiation from the test was responsible. Number 3. The nuke cannon. In the early 1950s, the United States figured out a way to fire a nuke from a modified railroad cannon. It had a range of just 20 miles and was fired just once. The atomic cannon, or Atomic Annie, was obsolete the second it arrived in Europe, and the US military officials figured out it was a better idea to deliver nuclear payloads with airplanes and missiles. Number 2. Operation Plowshare. Project Plowshare was a US project to develop techniques to use nuclear explosives for peaceful construction. The designers of Operation Plowshare hoped to use nuclear weapons to gain access to deep pockets of natural gas, and to create Alaskan harbors in an instant. Unfortunately, tests for this project released dangerous amounts of fallout into the atmosphere, and irradiated drinking water into the Nevada desert. Due to a public outcry, the project was abandoned. Number 1. World Peace. The strangest use of nuclear weapons is actually an unintended result of their creation. It can be argued nuclear weapons have done far more for world peace than even the United Nations. Thanks to a fear of mutually assured destruction, nations have realized that going directly to war is no longer worth the cost, and as a result, the decades after World War II have been the most peaceful decades in human history. This is no coincidence. Historians have noted that countries with nukes never attack other countries with nukes, and the only wars fought today are small local conflicts between non-nuclear states. Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, be sure to check out our other lists, and don't forget to leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already.